Hello and welcome to Storytime Reddit. Today's story comes from r/EntitledParents, where Ken, Karens, and their spawn get shut down. Our story is, Entitled Mom sells me a broken guitar because her baby can't play it. Multiple good endings. This story happened some years ago while I was living in the East Coast. I was driving back home from a friend's house and decided to take a detour through one of the more nicer neighborhoods because it was the beginning of fall and I'm just a sucker for the scenery. While driving, I just so happened to have found another thing that I go crazy for, a garage sale. With me having some money on hand, I decided that this was fate and pulled over to check it out. At first, I didn't really see anything special, just the kind of stuff you would expect to see at any garage sale. Old furniture, clothes, DVDs, and other small items. But then, in the corner of my eye, I saw something that I just didn't expect to see. A guitar. I went in for a closer look, expecting it to be some kind of cheap beginner guitar, the kind with a brand name you don't recognize. But no, what stood before me was an actual Gibson Les Paul. Side note, to those who don't know, Gibson is a very prestigious guitar brand name, and Les Paul is possibly their most famous model type. This model of guitar is legendary for being the weapon of choice amongst god-level rock stars. Example, Slash from Guns N' Roses or Ace Frehley from Kiss. Now, back to the story. She was beautiful, and yes, I refer to guitars as she. She was gold in color with white trim and looked kind of old, but in really good condition. But what got me in an actual state of shock was the price tag. It said the price was $50. I couldn't help but think that the person selling this forgot to add another 0 to the end of the price, as well as a 1 to the beginning. So I picked up the guitar and went up to the woman handling the sale to ask her about it. She didn't really look like a typical entitled parent, but her attitude and body language just radiated entitlement. It was like her aura was almost made out of pure smugness and hatred for the working class. Just by talking to her, I couldn't help but feel that she was the kind of soccer mom that you would expect to yell at the coach, as well as the referee, other parents, and maybe some of kids. But I digress. Me equals me. EM equals entitled mom. Excuse me, ma'am. Can I ask about this guitar? The price says it's $50. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Well, that's an unusually good price. Is there a reason for that? Yes, it's broken. I figured someone could use it like a decoration in their man cave or something. Hearing that just broke my heart. But it also got me curious because I couldn't find anything physically wrong with the guitar. No cracks or any other signs of damage. I started asking more questions thinking maybe I could fix her later. However, it was at this moment that any and all logic began to die and roll downhill away from me. Can I ask what's wrong with it? Yes, my baby can't play it. Excuse me? My son. He says it's unplayable. Oh, does he work with guitars, like a technician or something? Oh no, he can't work. My baby is only 12. Hearing that stunned me for a quick second, but I then decided to try to give the benefit of the doubt. I don't know this kid, so maybe he was one of those young musical virtuosos who got accepted to Juilliard early or something. So I take it your son is musically talented? Oh, very much so. He plays that Guitar Hero game all the time. What? Oh, you know, that game where you play music? He's constantly playing that game and is always getting the high score on it. I kept a straight face, but my mind was turning into that meme of the woman trying to do math. So, because of that, you got him a guitar? Well, of course. When you have a child as gifted as mine, it's important that you nurture their gifts. So you think he knows what he's doing? Well, he obviously knows what he's doing, so if he says it's broken, then it's broken. Listening to her talk made my brain hurt, but it also helped me decide to take the chance and buy the guitar. While paying, this woman went on a long, insane rant about how the guitar was actually a gift from the kid's late grandfather, from the dad's side of the family, and how he must not like her son because he gave him an old hand-me-down guitar instead of a brand new one. Hearing all this legitimately upset me, but I just decided to keep my mouth shut and leave. After getting home, I immediately took the guitar, plugged her into my amp, retuned her, that was all the maintenance she needed, and played a few notes and chords. To my amazement, she sounded perfect. It felt as if her soul was singing the praises of freedom. I spent the rest of the day playing and tripping out that not only have I purchased my first ever Gibson Les Paul, but I also only paid $50. But the story doesn't end there. A few weeks later, I met a friend at a party who was an actual guitar technician. I told him my story, and he said if I wanted, He could appraise my guitar for me and tell me her true value. I took him up on the offer and the results blew me away. It turns out my baby was a vintage Les Paul from 1973, retailing at well over $3,000. He then asked me if I were interested in selling, but I told him there was absolutely no way I'm ever letting go of her. But the story still doesn't end here. Shortly after getting my baby appraised, I got word from a friend who turns out works in the same office building with the husband of EM. She updates me about what she learned, and apparently EM's husband is, of course, righteously pissed. Turns out not only did EM sell a very expensive guitar for just $50 that was a gift from his father to her spoiled kid, but she also sold it without him knowing. Not only that, my friend informs me that EM has also been looking for me. My friend tells me that EM wants to find me so she can demand the guitar back, not offer to buy it or even pay back what I paid. She wants to demand that I give it back for free because apparently I scammed her out of a priceless family heirloom and robbed her child's ability to play music. My friend said she didn't say anything about her knowing me, but then asked me if I wanted her to say anything to them about who I was. I tell her absolutely not. If she wants a guitar, she can buy a new one with the money I gave her, just like she planned. And I agree that this guitar is a family heirloom, but it's my family heirloom. Sorry, EM, but if it means anything, if you're reading this, I named her Karen. Nice score. People who aren't musicians have no idea how expensive instruments are. I had a roommate leave behind a very cheap no-name drum set once. He had picked it up for like $50 and never played it. I just wanted it gone, so I listed it for free on Craigslist. That was the last thing I did before going to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, I had almost 400 responses asking about it. Totally should have asked a few bucks for it. Best thing to do is list at cheap/reasonable price and just give it away when they pick it up. You weed out all of the people just looking for free crap. You get someone who genuinely wants the item, and then there's the side bonus of making their day unexpectedly getting something for free. Her baby was pissed that the dots didn't light up on the fingerboard. Don't be so sure it's sarcasm. I was thinking that. Just to be fair, there is a teaching system called Fretzilla that puts paper-thin LEDs on your guitar. They can teach you to play some simple songs by following the lights or just put on a light show. People who see other people doing something with relative ease frequently appear to think, well, if whomever is doing it that well, it must be, drumroll please, easy. What they don't see is the hours of practice, lessons, playing with other, more advanced artists, frequent rehearsals, etc. So they hand Junior, or themselves, a what have you, and expect that they can instantly belt out Stairway to Heaven better than Page himself on the first try. And it doesn't work. Of course it must be broken. And as the mother of an orchestra dork, or orc dork, who plays both forms of bass, trust me, you need to practice, take lessons, and practice even more before you can so much as play Three Blind Mice on up to Land of a Thousand Dances. Guitar Hero my arse. I started playing violin last month. I'm still working on counting notes and playing the most basic scales. People who don't play have the nerve to ask why I can't at least play something simple yet. My mother, usually a just no, who played violin, viola, and cello growing up, is amazed I have even made the progress I have so far. I feel bad for the husband, but them's the breaks. The husband picked her, especially if he's decided to stay with her. Exactly. I feel bad for the 12-year-old that has been screwed by his parents and OP. The father should have been taking care of the guitar until the kid was old enough to understand what he had. I don't know. If you take the EM partially at her word and assume her spawn had actually complained about the guitar being unplayable, it becomes harder to feel bad. If it's true, seems like an unappreciative kid getting mad that playing a real guitar is harder than playing the game. It's one thing not really liking a gift. My mom always tried to encourage artsy and educational hobbies of mine. One Christmas, when I was little, it resulted in half my presents being drawing stuff, just because I made a few detailed drawings somewhere that year. Pretty disappointing when most you asked for were video games. I think I was also about 12 at the time. You have to act all grateful, but really you're disappointed. Then, inevitably, she asked why I never used any of the drawing stuff, at which point I kinda had to admit I don't like drawing that much, which is basically indirectly saying the gifts were bad gifts, hurting her feelings. Perhaps this kid saw this as a way out. Why I never play on that guitar you gave me? Well, I like the gift, but unfortunately it doesn't work well. That's it. You don't have to look for a new one, though. I'm good. If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. I hope you'll come again soon. Bye for now!